Okay, so I'm back on again, hope only a couple of minutes later. If you are with me, could you please leave a comment? I want to try and work out why I'm not seeing comments. The whole point of doing a live interaction is so that I can actually see what you're saying and I can respond to your questions directly. And then I've just got stuff prepped that I can talk about if nobody's on live or I happen to time it and you can't get through. But I'm a bit frustrated that I've done sort of 10-15 minutes of talking before now and then found you did have some questions, because I'm much better at working directly with people there, which is why I love Facebook Live so much. So I'm just going to give it a couple of more seconds, so hopefully you guys will join me and we'll be able to get back online. And while you're doing that, I'm trying to see if I can straighten up the iPad, because I notice I'm at an angle. Oops. Also better move those out of the way so I don't trip over and do myself a mischief. So I'm just going to check. I know that some of you, if you can't see me, I know that Angela and Susie were joining me just a moment ago. I just want to make sure this is working. It's like almost pointless keep going through it if nobody can see me. So Susie, are you there? I'm going to send a message to Susie, because those who don't know, Susie's my Facebook manager, so she keeps an eye on me. Yay! Hi Tom, and I can see your comments. Okay, so I will start again, because obviously as long as one person can leave a comment and they can hear me, then I feel like I'm not all alone. So good morning, I'm Cheryl Andrews. I'm the founder of Step by Step Listening, and this is live Q&A on the Facebook group Manage Your Critic from Overwhelm to Clarity in 7 Steps. And today we're talking about step 5, which is intention. So those of you who've got the book, we're looking at page 115 to 127. And the key learnings today are the power of pronouns, the drama triangle, and power of and. And so, Tom, I know you've read the book, and I also know you're doing the 21-day online program currently. So any thoughts you get, any experiences you've had where you've put this into practice, and Susie, if you're back on with us shortly again, please share your experiences. And Angela, if you do join us again, when you're hearing this, if you can think of times when that's happened, if you've got any questions at all, please ask them as you go along. And as I finish each part, I'll check out the questions we've got and hopefully be able to interact and maybe ask you some questions that will help you get clarity of what you want and the confidence to make it happen. So first of all, the section is called Step 5 is intention. And it is about, I truly believe that if we want to work in partnership with other people, we want to work at our very, very best, we have to communicate from a place of love and good intent. I think it's about having care and compassion for ourselves and others when we communicate. However, when we get into drama and our emotions are all over the place, the energy that we vibrate when we give our communications out is not always very good. So if you can imagine a time when you've got really irritated, and then when it's come out, it's the speed it comes out. And although I haven't covered this in the book, it's something we do much more at the higher level when we do Motivate, Manage or Mentor. We start practicing the tone and pace of what we say. So one of the reasons why, as a facilitator, I really slow my pace down. So I might say to somebody, and what would you like to have happen? And can you just notice the difference between that pace and the high energy that I'm talking? Well, it's great when I've got high energy now and I'm talking because I'm excited and I'm passionate and I'm enthusiastic. But if I've got that same pace and that same speed coming out, but actually what's going on inside is fear, frustration, anger, then what tends to happen is it comes out and the words hit other people like we've attacked them. And it can almost like, that expression when you snap someone's head off, or you've verbal diarrhea, you're just throwing it all over people. And we very rarely, when we communicate from that kind of place, get very good results. And it also is the same that if you're talking to yourself, if the conversation you're having, if you've got those two voices in your head going, you should do this or you should do that, if they're coming from that place of frustration, anger, contempt, annoyance, frustration, you are not going to get one to hear the other. You're not going to be able to balance out those two thoughts in order to actually get to hear, understand and value both perceptions. So this section is about 2 or 3 models and thoughts that I came across that when I started being curious about the language that I was using and where my attention was, and I started giving myself a feedback, which are the first 4 steps, this really started taking the drama out of it. Now, I will say to you, as a facilitator, it's not that I don't ever have drama. I'm a human being, so I do get scared, I do get nervous, and particularly this year where I'm really pushing myself physically, and I had a bit of a wobble yesterday, but because my brain is used to this process of following the clarity process, it took me 2 or 3 minutes talking to Mark about it, literally going through the CLARITY, and actually following it in a couple of minutes, and then leaving myself to sleep on it. Woke up this morning, spoke for another couple of minutes, and I'm now back to a place where I feel resourced and ready to go. But there was a few things that happened yesterday that left me kind of feeling a bit out of balance. So whilst that's what I can do now, 8 years ago, I would have been talking about that problem for weeks and months. And I would have talked about it to anybody that would listen to me. And it actually got to a point where I was sick of hearing the story. So if you can relate to that, if you're at that point right now where you've got this story going on and on in your head, and you're sick of saying the same thing over and over again to other people, this is a really good activity for you to be aware of. So let's get started. Power of pronouns. Hi, Susie. I just noticed you are there. Thanks for joining us. This is what happens with the human brain and your critic is it's always going to be, as we mentioned before about the reptilian brain, mammalian brain, it is going to go into survival mode if it thinks you're not safe. And I found that the way that I was talking to myself and others wasn't making it clear to my brain, i.e. my critic, whether I was referring to me or to other people. So I just want you to be curious about the pronouns that you're using. So when you say we need to do, or we need to go somewhere, or we have to do this, just check what kind of we is that we. And when I ask my clients this, if I hear them saying we, and I'm not really clear from the context of everything else that they've said, who they're referring to or what that's referring to, I will always ask what kind of we is that we, so that they can get clarity. I don't assume that they're getting it wrong, and I don't assume that it's not what they mean it to be, but it's always worth checking it out, because when you start getting really clear and you start owning it. So what I would like to have happen, and I've asked them what kind of we, and they'll say things like, oh, well, actually, it's not we, it's really me. I've got to do it. Or it's not really we, it's actually them. What I want is for them to be doing something else. Or it is we. It's like myself and my husband, myself and my partner, whatever that might be. Thanks for sharing. So, Susie, you put changing your pronouns has made a huge difference. Can you leave an example below so that other people in the group, that'd be really great. And what kind of difference has that made to you? Because that would be fabulous. So if you just check in with yourself, so imagine if you keep saying, I need to do this and I need to do that and I have to do this or I haven't done that. But actually what you mean is that you'd like your partner to help more around the house, or you'd like your clients to buy more products. Then all the time you're putting that energy into the I, and the critic's thinking it's you that's got to do it. That's going to create overwhelm. And when you've got overwhelm, you get into survival brain. And when you're in survival brain, you can't make decisions very well and you can't speak with clarity. So pronouns are one thing. A story that I talk about in the book is a friend of a client of mine. I went round to interview her for a testimonial, and she was talking about to her daughter on the Friday. She said, oh, we really need to make a banana cake this weekend because all those bananas are really ripe. And she's on Monday, so I'm sat here seeing, I tried the delegating to do it, and I said, so when we need to make the banana cake, what kind of we? And she went, oh, I realised what I've done. I haven't said I'd like you to make a banana cake. I've said we're going to do it. And therefore her daughter will make her own assumption that when mum's ready and mum's free, we will make the cake together. And therefore she hasn't done it. So if you're talking to people and not getting the response you want, be clear who is it you want to do what. And just notice as well if any fear comes up or you'll become uncomfortable with it. Because I know when I had to start being a bit grown up about it and going, actually, what I would like to have happen is this, and what I'd like you to be doing is this. And I really separated it out, and it became very, very clear. I had clarity who was doing what. I was a little bit worried because it felt a bit forceful, it felt a bit assertive, it felt a bit aggressive, which is why it's really important to be aware of your tone and to really calm yourself on the inside before you say those things, to get rid of all that drama that's going on. So that when you do it from a place of good intent, from love, with care and with compassion for the other person. And so it's about setting them up for success as well, because if you're suddenly going to start saying you need to do this, you need to do that, and you do it with a really fast tone, they will feel attacked. So it's like what I'd really like to have happen is to sort my own head out, and I've got a list of things that I need to do, and there's a few things that you could do that would really help me. Is it okay if I explain those to you? Then you can start to soften how you actually transfer it over. That's just the way I do it. When I work with clients, I would ask them, when it's like that, you need to separate it. What would you like to have happen? And they work out their own language, their own words that feels comfortable for them, because it's really important that it feels congruent for you. Otherwise, it all comes out a bit like muddled up. So hopefully that's helpful. Susie, you've put, I would often say we need to do this, and what I meant was I wanted Martin to do the activity, and I would then get frustrated when he didn't. And at the same time, he thought I meant that I was going to, and I've got to press the button to say see more, see if I can do that while we're doing this. I was going to do it, and now I make it clear who I'd like to do the activity so we can discuss it. And just share with me what difference is that making to your business, and what difference is it making to your relationship? What's happened to productivity maybe, and just the effectiveness. That'd be really great, Susie, if you can share that with me. That'd be fab. Good morning, Diane. I've just seen your hello. Thanks for joining me. So that's the power of pronouns. And I'm realising it's 8:15. I'm going to stay on and do all the 3 sections. Those of you that need to go because you thought it was only going to be 15 minutes, feel free to log off and just check in with me later. That's fine. But as I'm here, I'd really like to be able to share the other 2 models with you. So drama triangle. This, for me, was life-changing. When I discovered about the ego states and I started to own when I was communicating from these perceptions, I realised why I wasn't getting the response that I wanted. And I can be in drama in my own head. So my critic and my strength and intuition detective can be having a go at each other, and you go, yeah, but you should have done that, and you should have done this, and there's all that going on. So it can be a conflict I'm having in my head. It can be a conflict with myself. So I'm going, part of me says this and part of me says that. I can have a conflict in my head with other people. So I'm not telling them about it, but I'm having a bit of a moan about them in my head. Or I can be verbally doing it. I'm probably braver at home to be speaking up loud. And I think this is why it's so important for us to get our communication sorted. Because what I'm discovering is, whilst I work a lot with business owners to help them to be more effective, more productive, to be able to manage their time and to plan and make decisions that work for them, the reality is if you're not working effectively at home, at work, it's usually the home that gets the brunt of it. You know, if it's going to explode out somewhere, you're either going to sulk and retreat and not talk, or you're going to get irritable and ratty and be short-tempered. You'll do it at home. You're more likely to do it there. For some reason, we can hold that professional mask on and keep our face straight and not say anything at work, and we don't speak up and speak our truth. But at home, it all kind of comes out in a bit of a muddle. So Susie, you said you get productivity has improved immensely and I feel more supported. Well, you know me. So can I just ask you to share what kind of evidence have you got? What do you hear and see that tells you it's improved immensely? That would be great. And hopefully that will give you some insights as well. So drama triangle, this is a model that's developed by Steve. It's talked about first of all by Steve Cartman, and it's about the ego states, and it's from transactional analysis for those of you that want to look into the details of it, and you can Google it anytime you want to. But there's 3 positions on the drama triangle. So the first one is victim, and I still do this occasionally. That's because I'm human, but I catch myself quicker now. But but I did this really well before, and that's when you go, oh, you know, I never get anything. I'm always left behind. I'm never as successful as anybody else. It's like, and basically all of your statements, all of your dialogue, whether you're saying it out to other people, whether you're thinking it in your head, they're all about you're not okay. Okay, so that's one ego state. The other one is rescuer. So it's like they're not okay without me. So it's like everybody else is, you know, if you don't help them, then they're not going to get by. So they couldn't possibly sort it out for themselves without you. So you feel, you know, indeed that you have to go and do it. And I think the difference, and I find people who I work with tend to be people that really care about people. They're supporters of others, they're motivators, they're inspirers. So how I tell you the difference between caring and rescuing is that when you rescue, eventually you resent it. When you do it from a place of caring, you do it because you want to serve. You do it because you want to do it and you know it's got value and it makes a difference to that person's life and it's being appreciated and it's great. If you're doing it and you don't feel it's appreciated, then the likelihood is that you've done it from a rescue perspective. You have thought, I need to do it. And you didn't once ask them if they wanted you to do it. In fact, they probably have told you they're fine and they don't need you to do it. And you've decided that's not true, that they possibly can't think for themselves and that you have to do it for them. And at that point, they won't show appreciation because they didn't want it anyway. And they were actually letting you do it because they thought it made you happy. And they were kind of like, okay, I'll let her do it for me. I don't really want them to do it for me. And that's why you don't get appreciation, is because it wasn't really something they needed or wanted. That was a desire from you to make them feel better because you think they should be doing something in a different way. So rescuer, you know, you'd be saying things like, they can't do it without me. So, or you feel that if they carried on down the road, you feel danger for other people and you feel compelled that you have to say or do something. So be aware of that one. And then persecutor is the last one, is when you are saying they're not okay. So you're conversation is, well, that's not right, they shouldn't be doing it that way. If they did this, then I'd be okay. If they did that, everything would be sorted. So it's very much that the other person's not okay. So just to clarify them, persecutor is they're not okay. Victim is I'm not okay, or you're not okay. And the rescuer is the other person's not okay without you. Thanks for sharing, Diane, that you can relate to the care rescuer role. It is really challenging as a carer. And the one thing that I would say is it's about asking other people what they would like to have happen, and really, really listening, you know, without judgment, and without thinking you know their mind better than them, and asking them what they would like to have happen, and having back in your mind what you want to have happen. And actually, that's usually the bit we haven't done. And I found that by going back and going, actually, what I would like to have happen, particularly with my daughter, I'd go, what I'd like to happen is for you to be happy and confident. And I'd like to know that I'm doing a good job as a mum. That's ultimately what it's about. So I was doing the rescuing thing because I wanted to know that I was a good mum. So actually what I wanted was to be a good mum. I can focus on what I perceive a good mum is, and I can ask her what she thinks a good mum needs to be. I can then check those two things out and actually go, am I that kind of mum? Because she might want a mum that I'm not naturally geared to be, and I can choose whether I want to be that kind of mum or not. And it's about sort of separating the two out. And so what does this person want to have happen, and what do I want to have happen? And really, really listening, and not being coloured by your preconceived ideas, sort of parking anything you thought they should do, or they should need, or should want, or should do, and really, really listening to what they're actually saying that they would like to have happen. Because sometimes we want them to need us. We want them to require ourselves because that's how we feel of value. And actually, I believe that when you really listen to somebody and you help them have what they want, then we're of value. That's where we get our value from, is from honouring and respecting other people's wants and wishes. Wants and wishes. So the thing with the drama triangle is, if you do communicate, I've got new shampoo, my hat keeps falling off, my hair's really shiny. If you communicate from any of those drama triangles, the downside is you can only get 1 or 3 back, unless somebody knows how to get out of drama around you. So if you go, you're wrong, the other person can only communicate with 1 or 3 things. So they either go, no, you're wrong, so you get persecutor back. Or they go, victim, they go, oh yeah, I'm always wrong, I never get anything right. Or they go to rescue and they go, oh yeah, I am wrong. What can I do to make it better? How can I make things better for you? Because they feel that they have to fix it so you're okay. So you end up in this drama triangle, which I think is a bit of a drama cycle. And the only way that I know how to get out of it is through the setup model that I share in the book, which is asking yourself first and foremost, what would you like to have happen? Asking yourself, how do you need to be for that to happen? And making sure you've got the resource and support that you need to maintain that state of mind. And it's usually with somebody that's not involved with that conversation. Now, I'm not saying you have to employ coaches like me, but obviously that's what I do for a living. But you might have a friend or someone who's not emotionally attached to that you can talk that through with, who's going to hold you accountable to being confident or assertive or calm or whatever it is that you decide you need to be in order to communicate with this other person. And then when you've got it clear in your own head and you've had someone listen to you, you can empty your head, and then your head is then ready to listen to the other person. You can ask them what they would like to have happen, how do they need to be, and what support might they need for that to happen. And you ask a few more questions. And I always remember a story with, I had a 30-minute clarity call that I do with my clients, which I'll put a link down below if anyone's interested in. Is that I did this 30-minute call and I said, what would you like to have happen? And the person worked out what they wanted. And I said, how do you need to be? And they said, blah, blah, whatever that is. And I said, what kind of resource or support do you need? And she said, I need somebody that does da-da. And I'm thinking, oh, that's me. So the little voice in my head was going, oh, do you know, I think I might have got some business here. But I just stay with the clean process and don't make assumptions and come from a place of care and compassion, and asked her, so what kind of somebody could that somebody be? She went, oh, my dad's really good at that. When he asks me questions, it really makes me think. So I said, okay, so when you've got your dad, you need to be that. Is that a good place to stop? And can you sort that? And she went, yeah. And she did. She sorted it all out. Now, sometimes that happens with clients and they go off and do it with that member of staff and that member of the family, and that person can't listen for long enough for them to get the clarity, and they do come back to me. But it's a really good example, and I always think about it, is that I wanted to be of service. I love asking my questions, but actually that person didn't need my services, and that's okay. That's what my job is in those 30 minutes, is to help the person work out what kind of support they need right now. And sometimes it's me and sometimes it's not, and that's absolutely fine. So the way to get out of drama is to ask yourself, what would you like to have happen? How do I need to be? And what kind of resource or support do I need? And then make sure your head is clear enough and you're calm enough and resourced inside that you haven't got any angst, that you can listen to what they've got to say and not be emotionally attached, not need it to be a certain answer, not need it to be whatever it is. Which brings me on to the third thing, the power of and. Because what can happen is you get very clear what you want. So I remember working with a husband and wife team and in business, and so one wanted one thing and one wanted it, and they seemed like poles apart. So when the husband was listening to the wife, he would get immediately frustrated and kind of all like try and talk her around to his way of thinking, because he couldn't see how he could have what he wanted and she could have what she wanted. So he would almost become rescuer, persecutor, but he was having a bit of a victim going on in his head, even though he wasn't consciously aware of it at the time. Is that it's like, well, if she does that, I can't have what I want. You know, if she's doing this, I won't be able to have what I'm wanting. So what I will say to you, if you're still in conflict after having checked your pronouns, and you're working from not talking from a place of drama, then check out the power of and, because the next level is, okay, so for example, when for me personally, I remember when I was learning to actually ask for my needs to be met, the boys, we'd go out for a ride, we're going to do something, and the boys were trained for about 18 months to say to me, that's my husband and son, and are you sure this is what you want to do? And I'd have to check in and I'd go, no. I'd be going off bike riding, I'd be going off to the cinema, whatever, and it wasn't because I wanted to bike ride, and it wasn't because I wanted to go to the cinema, it's because I wanted to spend time with them. But those activities weren't really things at the time that I really wanted to do. And so it's they want to go to the cinema and I want to spend time with them. And the more when I check out, it's like, how can I have both? How can I spend time with them and they go to the cinema and I don't have to go to the cinema? And what we used to work out was like, okay, actually, if I come with you to town and we're going to have a coffee and I spend some time with you, you go and watch the movie, I'll go shopping for a couple of hours, and then I'll meet you for dinner afterwards or a drink. Then I get to spend the time with them, but I don't have to watch the movie because it's not necessarily the thing I would like to spend my time doing. A couple of times Mark wanted to go for a bike ride. It was our anniversary and he really needed to get out. He worked all day in the office. He really wanted to cycle. I didn't really want to cycle. So I'd go, okay, so what I want to have happen is to be go for a drive, have a romantic, cup of hot chocolate with a flask on the top of Portsdown Hill, and you want to go for a cycle. So I remember one of the occasions is that, so how can we have both of that? So he cycled to Portsdown Hill and I drove to Portsdown Hill, and we met up there and we had our coffee. But if you don't, it's almost like you have to stop. We kind of get an automatic response that we can't have both. And it was life-changing for me when I looked at when I'm working at my best, when I'm living at my best, and when I'm learning at my best. That's like what? And when you've got the metaphor landscape and you've got that embedded feeling inside and you know what's going to be happening if you have it all, when you come to make decisions, you're not stuck in your head going either or. So I know there's a client that put a message in, Shirley, you said about joining a group, but you're afraid to do it because it was you're afraid of making an idiot of yourself, and should I leave it for a little bit of time? Should I tackle it now or not? The first question is, what would you like to have happen? And you've said you'd like to be able to join the group. So it's like, I'd like to join the group and I don't want to feel like an idiot. Now, the don't want to feel like an idiot is actually focusing on what you don't want. So I would ask you, so when you don't want to feel like an idiot, what would you like to have happen? And you'll come up with your answer, and I'll make one up for today for this example. But let's say assume that you want to be able to speak with confidence and not worry about what people think, and join the group. So then you put the and in between. So you want to join the group, speak with confidence, and not worry what people think. And that not worry what people think might have to become a positive thing that you want. So what is it you want? And it might be, I want to be able to listen and process what they've got to say and take it on board. And again, the next thing I'd come up with is not take it personally, because that's kind of the work that I tend to get involved with. And when you're not taking it personally, then what happens? And then you keep going until you have a statement that says, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And you go, and when all that, is there anything else about all of that? And when you've got the complete picture, that's when your brain can go, oh, right, well, I've got some ideas for this. But usually we're talking about what we don't want, and it can't help you because it just like, well, that's what you don't want, but I need to know what you do want, because I can't come and find out the answers if you don't tell me what you do want. And people around you can't give you answers if they don't know, or even ideas if you don't tell them what you do want. And whilst you're thinking you have to choose one or the other, it will naturally put you into a conflict. So the power of and is, so another client working with this week. So I want to eat healthily. I want to be able to go out and socialise with my boyfriend, and I want to eat meals with my family, and I want to lose weight. Now the losing weight is, again, it's a loss thing. It's moving away from something. So again, so when you lose weight, then what happens? So I'll be fitter and healthier. I'll be a size 12, or it's what you want. So I want to eat healthy. I want to be able to socialise with my friends, and I want to be able to be a size 12. Then those things, and when all that's like what? And then if you get the whole picture, it just takes away an awful lot of pressure. So hopefully that's been helpful. I've just seen Mavis, you've tried watching live, but picture was frozen for me. Oh, I'm very sorry. Hopefully that's just your signal. And when you've got better signal, you might be able to watch the video. But I will be putting it on YouTube, so you can watch it later. So that's it. Has anybody got any questions about any of that? I know we're probably running a bit late, and some of you might have to leave me. It's now nearly 8:30, but maybe I need to extend it for half an hour session. But I hope that's been useful. If you've got any questions, put them in below. Catch me on YouTube. I'll put a couple of links below, because if you want to see my newsletter that comes out, What's Working Wednesday, it's really about helping you develop that muscle, about what's working and what do you want to have happen. So just having that in your inbox, even if you've never opened my email, you've got What's Working Wednesday coming into your email inbox every Wednesday. It'll remind you that if you're going out of practice again and you're just talking about what's not working or what you don't want, it'll help you move you back to that what's working mentality. Thanks for joining me today. I'll put a couple of links below. Hope to speak to you all soon. Thanks. Bye.